Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS Slate Breakdown for Monday, July 22nd. We're here. We're going to be breaking it down. We got a 9-game slate to go over, and I think it is a pretty fun one. Pitching is very interesting today, and we're going to have to figure out where to go. Now, before we get into it, come join us at LineStar. It is $39.99 per month. It gets you access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS, you get it all. We also are going to have a best ball tool dropping very, very soon. It is a tool that I'm actually very, very excited about, and I think you guys will like it as well. And I will definitely be doing a couple tutorials on it because there are some things that we need to get out there to explain to you guys so you can use it to the best of your ability. Now, before we get into this slate, we're going to go over yesterday's perfect lineups, the winning lineups, then today's lineup or today's pitchers, and then stacks to consider. Now let's get into it. Let's go and let's check it all out. Do have to say it does look like this week we will be dropping that best ball tool, but I don't want to say for sure as never really know with tech. Little problems can pop up, but it should be soon. All right. So, starting with FanDuel perfect lineup from Sunday, we got Hayden Birdsong just going nuts, putting up 58. This man went 6 innings, gave up 2 runs, and had 12 Ks in Colorado. Just went absolutely nuts at Coors Field. Pretty impressive. And then hitting-wise, we had that 2-man from Miami and all one-offs from, Milwaukee 2-man, and then all one-offs from that. Very far away from using all the salary there, but 34.2 was the lineup score. And the winning lineup went to Tentacado, who put up 216.3 and 120K. They had Tyler Phillips, who went 6 innings, got the K, really didn't have that much upside, only had 3 Ks, but no runs, got the quality start, got the win, and, was 2K cheaper than the pitchers that really put up decent scores. So he got it, being low owned, so congrats to him. And then hitting wise, we had a 3-man Yankees, 2-man Detroit, and then 2 one-offs with Tampa Bay and Minnesota that got it done. So pretty solid lineup. Congrats to them. They won 20K. Let's check the DraftKings where we got Seth Lugo, Shata Amanga, and then a 3-man Milwaukee, 2-man Miami stack, and a couple one-offs, with the winning lineup going to Big Boss Boppers, who won by 3.4 points. Had that Shata and Lugo combo for pitchers. They had Eric Haas, who just went absolute nuts. And then a 2-man Toronto, 2-man St. Louis with a run back of Atlanta. And then good old Minnesota with Carlos Santana there that didn't really add much. And Ellie De La Cruz as well. So really their one-offs didn't really add much outside of Haas. It just went to the mini stacks that got it done, and then nailing the pitchers. Eric Haas putting up 33 was a big one also, but it was Haas, Springer who went nuts, and then the pitchers kind of got it done for him. It was a weird slate with way less scoring than what we've seen lately. So let's get into the slate today. So 9-gamer starts at 4:20 Pacific time, 7:20 East Coast time. Everything's right around that 8.5 total, except for the one Colorado game. And Colorado is actually big-time underdogs at home. Well, fairly big underdogs at home. And pitching-wise, we got Hunter Green as the highest-owned pitcher at 27%. Now, he is against Atlanta Braves. So you don't love to see that, but the Braves definitely are not the Braves right now. They have just been beat up by injuries all season long. Hunter Green is pitching great, 2.76 FIP over his last 5 starts. Now with that, he has faced Pittsburgh twice, the Cardinals, the Tigers, the Rockies. So not exactly who's who of the MLB hitters, but he has done very, very well. And his price is only 8.2K. He has big time upside. He has a 33% strikeout rate over those last 5 versus 27% over the last 20. He's allowing a lot of fly balls, but such little hard contact, such little line drives. I'm definitely interested in that spot for Hunter Green versus this Braves team that just is not the Braves we remember from last year. And now they're even more hurt with Albies going to the IL, and they're likely going to miss him for 2 months. So hopefully for the Braves' sake and the Braves fans here, they can hang on to that wild card spot, as they do have a 4.5 game lead there, but it's only a 4.5 game lead, and they are struggling a little bit. Combined K rate is 30%, so they're in a good spot for that, Hunter Green. I don't mind some Hunter Green, but it is, Braves offense still has quite a few hitters that can get it done. Next, Spencer Arrighetti. 4.22 FIP over his last 5, 4.5 FIP over his last 20. There is some upside here because he has a 25% K rate over his last 20 starts. Now he's versus this Athletic team that has been hitting decently in the short term and really even the long term when it comes to versus righties. 195 ISO, 321 WOBA over the last 150. Then over the last 20, it's a 205 ISO with a 330 WOBA. So they've been hitting the ball pretty well versus righties. Spencer Arrighetti, there is some big-time upside here, but there's also big-time downside. This is a spot that I'm very intrigued to play both sides of it. We've seen Arrighetti go 5 innings, give up 2, go 4 innings, give up 7, 4 innings, give up 3, 1.1, give up 7. So he can get crushed. He can also go 7 innings, have 10 Ks. And this is a spot that I think is very interesting for both sides. One, pitching really isn't that great today. So trying to go against the A's, who strike out a lot, is kind of an interesting spot when you're only at 7.8K. But there's also going to be some leverage going with Oakland, as they're going to be a lower owned stack. So I'm pretty intrigued by going to either side in that game here. Next, we got Ronaldo Lopez versus the Cincinnati Reds. Lopez has dropped off a little bit from how good he was early. However, he's still been very, very good. 3.65 FIP over his last 5, 3.06 over his last 20. K rate 24%. StatCast data looks fine. Not great, not bad. I don't mind some Ronaldo Lopez. However, I do have to bring up the fact that Cincinnati has been hitting the ball pretty well, and Cincinnati will try and run on you. And Ronaldo Lopez has allowed 13 steals over the last 20 and 7 steals over the last 5. If they want to steal on Lopez, I think they're going to be able to. So I'm a little interested in that Cincinnati offense because I do expect them to be running and be able to score points in a bunch of different ways. Now, I don't think they're going to hit super well against Lopez, but if they can make him, throw more pitches than he should in innings and get out of the game a little bit early while giving him 2 or 3 runs and get to that bullpen a little bit early, I think there is a path to Cincinnati doing well. I don't hate Lopez in this spot. I don't mind some Lopez because there is some upside versus Cincinnati, who does strike out a decent amount. But over the last 20 games versus righties, they're hitting 253. They have a 256 ISO, so really high ISO, and a 353 WOBA, very high WOBA. So they are getting on base, they're hitting righties decently, and they're hitting them hard. So I am a little bit intrigued there. I do have to bring up the fact that in 47 plate attempts, they're only hitting 167 off him, though, with a 167 ISO and 296 WOBA. So they haven't done well off him. Now, most of that is all relief and then one start in 2021. So personally, I wouldn't really look into that, but the data's there. Data's data, so I got to bring it up. Now let's get into Cole Reagans versus the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, this is strength meets strength here. Arizona Diamondbacks have been hitting lefties very, very well. 318 average, only a 140 ISO, but a 371 WOBA. And we know Arizona will run on people. They can score small ball ways. They can do a lot of things to get points or runs on the board. So it's an interesting spot. Meanwhile, Cole Reagans been absolutely incredible. 2.69 FIP over his last 20, 2.76 over the last 5. Comes with a 31% K rate over the last 5, 29.6 over the last 20. StatCast data isn't great, but when you're striking guys out at this level and keeping your FIP and ERA down this much, I can kind of look the other way with StatCast data sometimes. All in all, combined K rate of 26%. One of, if not the best pitcher on the slate, just in a tough matchup. So if he goes super low owned, which doesn't look like he will right now, then I'll have a ton. But regardless, I'm going to have some of him. He is a good pitcher. His price is pushed down a little bit. I see some upside even in a tough matchup. Next, we got Tanner Huck, 8.5K, 1.6X. Guy was pitching great over the last 20, 2.7 FIP. However, over the last 5, 4.3 ERA. K rate's down. StatCast data still looks good. And I have to bring up the fact that he has allowed 57% ground balls in the games in Colorado. That definitely is going to help him keep the runs down a little bit in Colorado. So it's something to note. And then over the last 20 games, the Rockies have actually hit righties pretty well. 222 ISO, 340 WOBA. Are striking out a lot, 26% still, so there's still a little bit of upside, but it's not as easy of a matchup over the last 20 games as it has been on the whole season. So I'm slightly intrigued, but the likelihood of me going there or having a decent amount of him is probably small. Blake Snell, this is probably one of my favorite lower-owned targets, I think, even though that it's versus the Dodgers. Look, 3.33 FIP over his last 20, 3.4 over his last 5. He started to figure out again. His StatCast data over his last 2 starts looks great. It is 56% fly balls, but 4% line drives, 8% hard contact. His K rate is back up. He has been efficient. He hasn't allowed a walk in 2 starts, and that was really the thing that was bothering him in the first couple. He wasn't able to get guys out because he kept giving people free bases and then would end up getting touched up for a couple runs. He's now 7,500, and he's pitching very well again. He is against the Dodgers team that hits well. However, over the last 20 games versus lefties, 238 average. 175 ISO still hitting the ball hard, and a 330 WOBA, but that is way down from the Dodgers team that we are used to. So while the Dodgers are good and they are still a very good offense, still hitting the ball hard, still getting on base, I think this is a much better matchup than a lot of people realize. And then you go to what he's done against the Dodgers. Remember, Blake Snell's faced this Dodgers team a ton. 235 average, has allowed 5 home runs, so decent amount of home runs, and a 190 ISO, 340 WOBA, but a 31% K rate. And if we look at what he's actually done, there has been some big-time ceiling games. Now, because he's only 7,500, mid-20s, low 20s is totally feasible and could help you. Now, the upside is he could get up to mid-30s versus this Dodger team. Yes, there's a couple blowouts in there where he's got roughed up, but Blake Snell is a little bit inconsistent. There is huge upside, but there is some low because he can get a little wild and walk too many guys. I am very interested if he's low owned and versus a Dodger team he's familiar with that doesn't have some of its best hitters. I'm absolutely intrigued and going to have a little bit of Blake Snell. he knows how to pitch to him. He's been there. He's done it a lot. Next, Bryce Miller, 8,400 versus the Angels, 2.1x. I'm very intrigued with Miller. I think Miller's a very good pitcher. We've also seen some solid upside for him, especially when he's at home, averaging 90% more fantasy points at home. He has a bigger home road difference than George Kirby. I'm very intrigued by going with Miller at home. He's a solid pitcher. At home, he's even a more solid pitcher. And this Angel offense doesn't scare me that much. However, over the last 20 games, they are hitting 260 versus righties, 140 WOBA, 140 ISO, 330 WOBA. So they have been good versus righties, but the offense doesn't scare me that much. I'm intrigued at 8.4K. I think he can work deep into games. He can be very efficient. And when he's on, he racks up some strikeouts. 8Ks, 9Ks, 10Ks, 7Ks, 7Ks. On a slate where really the best pitchers have, tough matchups, not really, a standout pitcher to go to or chalk really going to one spot, I think Bryce Miller is a decent option. Tobias Myers, he's been good lately. And that's about what you can say for him. There's not a ton of K upside. However, he has got there a few times lately, and he has a FIP of 3 over his last 5. So I'm a little bit intrigued. I don't mind if some of him pops up into some lineups, but I'm probably not going to go overboard with him. Ranger Suarez, lefty, versus the Twins. Suarez was unbelievable for most part of the year. He is step back a little bit. 4.44 FIP over his last 5. There's not a ton of K upside. And he's in a tough spot versus the Twins. 321 WOBA. They're hitting 282 over the last 20 games versus lefties with 5 home runs, 185 ISO, 343 WOBA. So it is a tough spot for Ranger, but there is upside. He can be efficient and work deep into games. However, that efficiency has eluded him lately. He's been a little wild. Ever since he got hurt, he just hasn't been totally back yet. So I don't know if he is still trying to work himself back and not fully healthy yet or what's going on, but he hasn't been himself as of late. Do you want to take a shot on him because there is some upside at a depressed, price point? Go for it. I may have a little bit, but I'm not going to have much. Michael Lorenzen, Assad, everybody else here, I'm fine with. But I don't really like. I think on this slate, there's so many different pitchers you can go to. I just doubt I have much of any of these guys. I do want to bring up River Ryan. They're at home. He's going to make his MLB debut, and I just want to tell you a little bit about this kid. So he started this year in rookie ball, made it all the way to AAA, and now he is making his MLB debut. So he was in rookie ball earlier this year. He has been very, very good through the minors, was still good at AAA, but now you're going up to the major leagues. It is a big step up. I mean, he is 25. He is a little bit older. Maybe he is ready, but it is a very big step up, and that worries me a little bit. Now, he's been good, so you can't take that away from him, and there is some upside in this matchup. He has had some strikeout upside. I don't know if it translates to the major league level, but I know the Dodgers are high on this kid. It's just a big step up. If you want to take a chance at a low price, go for it. But, no telling how he's going to do. But he's definitely going to get a chance in this lineup with how hurt the Dodgers pitching is. So go either way on that one. Wanted to give you my 2 cents. Let's get over to FanDuel. Check out the pitchers there. So high owned, Spencer Arrighetti. 35% owned is what we have him on. Now, I think he'll end up being less than that just because I think there are so many pitchers you can choose from that, and without ones really standing way above the rest. So I bet he ends up being 28, 25, something like that. And then ownership is sprinkled down a little bit through everybody else. Now, like I said, I like stacking against him, but I don't mind having some Spencer also. Hunter Green next, 17% owned. I'm fine with going here in this spot. Braves just aren't what we know the Braves to be lately, so I don't mind taking some shots there. He definitely has some solid upside. Ronaldo Lopez, I really don't love the spot for him in this game. However, you can't knock what he has done all season, and the upside is there to be able to get a little bit of him. I just think he's probably going a little higher owned than he should. Tanner Houck, I'm out at 10.2K. I'm interested on DraftKings, but at almost 2K more, I just think there's other places to go. I mean, frankly, I'd rather go Cole Reagans, who's right under him, less owned, and just a better pitcher all around, just in, a tough spot versus a decent offense. Blake Snell, I think he's your obvious pivot off of Arrighetti. The fact that he is 7.4K and Arrighetti is 7.6. Blake Snell has the higher upside. The Dodgers lineup isn't what it was to start the year. However, it is still very dangerous, but at least Blake Snell knows how to pitch to that lineup. Very intrigued by him. Ranger Suarez, I'm probably not going at. Pretty much everybody else down here I won't go to except for maybe Bryce Miller. River Ryan is cheap enough where if you want to take a shot versus a meh offense, you can go and do it, but you're really going to need him to go 6 innings to pay off in this spot. And I don't know if the Dodgers are going to let that happen when, it's a pitcher that started in rookie ball this year. Now let's get over to some stack attacks. View stacks. And our highest value stacks of the day, Oakland. I was preaching it that while Arrighetti is in a decent spot, he can give it up, and this Oakland team has been hitting well. So I am not surprised whatsoever to see this. They're low owned, a lot of value there, a lot of leverage. I am absolutely intrigued with that stack. Now let's get over to the highest owned stacks. And highest owned stack, we got Seattle versus Tyler Anderson and Boston versus Austin Gomber. Look, Boston's probably going to be the highest owned. Gomber is not good, and the implied total is significantly higher than everybody else. It's 5.7 implied total, and nobody else is going to be that high. So they are going to be the highest owned. Seattle definitely has reasons to get there. However, Julio Rodriguez did leave the game yesterday with an ankle injury. We're not sure if he's playing or not. X-rays came back negative, which is a good thing, but he is still day-to-day with an ankle sprain. Would not be surprised if he sets out. And if he does, that offense looks way different and way worse. So don't love some Seattle stacks. And if he's not there, Tyler Anderson could be a decent play. He tends to kind of keep his team in the game, at least. He doesn't ever absolutely crush, but on a weird slate like today, maybe it's a play. Houston versus Hogan Harris. Look, Hogan Harris, FIP of 5.3 over the last 5. Houston's hitting well. I absolutely think you can go to Houston today. Now let's go to our highest projected stacks. Should note, too, that none of the Seattle stacks are actually projected very high. Boston, all over highest projected. Makes a lot of sense to go there. Philadelphia versus Bailey Ober. I should have talked about Bailey Ober a little bit, and so let's do it now. He has been pitching incredibly lately. Very, very good. However, The last five that he has faced, and his last five numbers look extremely good. It's like Oakland twice, Pittsburgh, Detroit, White Sox. It's all teams that you should beat when you are the caliber of pitcher Bailey Ober is. He's now getting one of the best lineups in the league. So totally different spot. And I'm a little intrigued by Philadelphia because I think that less people will go there than they should due to the fact that Ober's been pitching well lately when he's had some really, really good matchups. So definitely intrigued by some Philly. And let's get over to the highest ceiling stacks. We got Oakland, we got some Cincinnati, we got some Philly. I think this is going to be a very fun slate. All these stacks I'm pretty interested in, especially in Oakland. I mean, they've just been hitting the ball well. And if Arrighetti is super high owned, I love that leverage play. Would not be surprised, though, if their ownership came up a little bit and Arrighetti's came down a little bit. All in all, though, I am very intrigued. Cincinnati versus Ronaldo Lopez. He gives up steals. So even if they're not really hitting him, not hitting home runs versus him and scoring many runs, at least maybe they can get through scoring some fantasy points through the first 4 or 5 innings and then maybe get to the bullpen. Or get a couple runs off him, get him out early, and then get to the bullpen. I think there's plenty of ways for them to be able to score fantasy points versus Lopez. So a little intrigued by that one. And let's check out the teams. As I said, Boston, far and away, highest implied total, 5.6. Colorado's next, all the way down at 4.8. I like both spots. I don't mind some Colorado. I don't mind some Boston. That Colorado bullpen is terrible, though, so bullpen. Boston, obviously, in the better spot. Texas, 4.7 versus the White Sox. Eric Fetty has been good this year, so I don't take anything away from him, but the bullpen behind him is terrible, so Texas is a little interesting. Houston, I think, is super interesting, and I'm definitely going to have some Houston versus Hogan Harris. KC, Yilbert Diaz has been good over his last 2 starts. There is some strikeout upside, but he is also allowing some hard contact. The bullpen behind him isn't great. KC is an interesting stack. The Dodgers, while I do like Blake Snell, he walks a lot of guys and doesn't take much for if he walks, 3-4 batters and you get a timely hit, the whole slate changes where the Dodgers could be a good stack. So while I like Blake Snell, I'm not canceling out the Dodgers. I think they're fine. Milwaukee versus Javier Assad. Assad was on an insane run and has totally fallen off and hit that regression monster big time. And I still don't totally believe in him, so I'm fine with some Milwaukee stacks. Minnesota versus Suarez. Like I said, Suarez has fallen off too, so a little interesting there. If he's not fully healthy, maybe Minnesota can get to him still. Seattle, we need to watch that Julio Rodriguez news, as that is a big-time game changer for them. And then I'm interested in Oakland as a little leverage there. All right, guys, that'll do it for us today. Good luck. Let's make some money, and we will be back tomorrow. Peace.